can ye behold the Lamb of God. As you find works of art that witness to truth, I almost picture it like chiseling away bits of the marble to reveal the statue of Christ hidden within. This is To Live the Truth, the podcast. My name is Ryan Clausen. In this show, my wonderful wife Allie and I dive into my book, To Live the Truth, which you can read for free at ryantclausen.com. Today we're discussing the conclusion.
I'm sad that the book is done because it's been a fun read and I've learned a lot from it, but I love this last paragraph. It says, talking about your book, I hope that it will serve as a springboard, launching you into the bottomless sea of rich, wonderful ideas supplied over the ages by thinkers far more gifted and inspired than I. Let the close of this book be the opening of a new chapter in your life, one in which you go forth ever feasting on living media, that the nourishing ideas contained within may continue to feed and sustain your mind and soul. It's beautifully said, and it just gives us an invitation to now dive into this feast of living books out in the world. And there's just so many, you can't even imagine. It's impossible to read all of them. So it can be daunting, but it's also exciting of how much there is out there, like how much you can learn and discover and experience.
Yeah, no, it's true. The question then is, why is that the primary invitation at the beginning and throughout the book and now at the very end? To make it a habit to regularly feast on living books. And so I thought to help illustrate is to review the two main figures in this book and talk about how living books play into that. So first of all, how does living media figure in the image of the tree of truth?
We're trying to align our trees to more closely resemble the tree of truth, God's tree. And sometimes we're so focused on the leaves and fruit, like the outer part of the tree. That's where we're focused. We don't even see the trunk or how it's all connected. Living books, the ideas that are placed in there and the knowledge that's in it helps us connect those leaves and fruit and helps us see beyond them to the trunk, which is God. And it maybe gives us ideas or ways to live and characters that we want to be more like, examples to follow, things to do or not to do in our lives that we can experiment upon and try and get closer to God and truth.
There's a phrase that I really like from Oscar Wilde. He says that art is at once surface and symbol, which I think is really interesting and also very relevant when we're talking about the tree of truth. Because what I interpret that to mean is that art is beautiful on the surface. It is attractive to the senses. And it is a physical thing. In fact, if you remember back to Plato's image of the divided line, he puts paintings as one of the furthest from truth on that line, right? But at the same time, it's surface and symbol, which means that art inspires ideas about profound truths. And I feel like the best example of that is Jesus's parables. Jesus would tell these stories that a child could sit and listen to and be entertained by. And yet at the same time, those who had ears to hear and eyes to see could discern eternal ideas behind those stories, right? He tells the parable of the prodigal son, and it's just a story of a boy who takes his inheritance and squanders it and then decides to come back home. It's a nice, feel-good story, but beyond the surface, there are symbols of God's love for us and the possibility that we always have of returning to Him and being forgiven and finding place in His kingdom. I really like that imagery. And there's also that quote by Picasso at the beginning of chapter 4, where I talk about living books, where he says that art is a lie that helps us see the truth. And so art is among the leaves and fruits, right? It's a book, it's a painting, it's a song,
It's
a
a
poem.
material thing.
But it directs you towards the center of the tree. It directs your attention inwards. And we define living media as teeming with great vital ideas. And so that's, in my opinion, the purpose of art, is to expose us to ideas that cause wonder, that shock us into the realization that our understanding has been limited and closed off, and it presents new ideas that we never would have encountered otherwise.
Yeah, it's awesome.
The faith cycle is the second central idea in the book. You may recall that the faith cycle describes how faith works, and that faith is founded initially on evidences, signs, and witnesses that testify of some truth. And in order to practice the faith cycle, once we encounter some sign or witness, our responsibility is to first believe, or at least awaken a desire to believe on that sign or witness, and then allow that belief to inspire action. And if it is a good seed, if it is a true word that this evidence is pointing towards, then our action should invite greater evidence to inspire greater belief and action. So how does living media play in the faith cycle?
I think it plays a huge role. I think that you can gain your first witness from living books. And as you continue to study and act, you can find further witness or evidence of that. I love when you read numerous books, or even books from hundreds of years ago, and they're the same ideas as things that you're going through in your life now. Or you'll see the same outcome from several books with characters acting a certain way, or they just all share similar ideas, and you can pick those out and know that, okay, those are probably truths. And then you can act on them and test them out, and hopefully you'll gain further evidence of the truthfulness of it. But the cycle is ongoing, and I feel like living books are a part of the whole thing.
Yeah. And the reason why I feel it's so important to develop a habit of regularly reading these kinds of books is because they contain ideas that you won't encounter very often anywhere else. And they're ideas that they reveal our blind spots to us. There's a phrase in Fahrenheit 451. It's one of my favorite lines in that book, where he says, "The books are there to show us what asses and fools we are." The truth is, it's so easy in just our day-to-day lives, being involved in our small daily practices, to forget how little we know. If our listener is wondering where to start, where to look to find living books, there's really no shortage of a supply of living works of art. But you could start in just the bibliography of my book. What some readers may not realize is that, as I mentioned in the introduction, most of the ideas that appear in my book were introduced to me by reading living books. And what's extra crazy about it is that very few of the quotes and the ideas that appear in my book were ones that I sought after. Most often, I just picked up a book that someone had recommended to me, or that just landed in my path, and in some ways felt very divinely, miraculously placed in my path. And all of a sudden I would encounter an idea that really informed a question that I was grappling with. Examples of that are John Ruskin, who probably is the most quoted person in the book, as well as E.F. Schumacher and Alan Bloom. It's really humbling and mind-boggling. So yeah, I would suggest just looking through the bibliography and seeing if a book in there piques your interest. I mean, if you even Google living books, you will find lists that other, usually Charlotte Mason enthusiasts, have compiled online.
Mm-hmm. If it's a living book, it's going to be helpful to your life in some way or another. It doesn't matter what living book it is. I get some kind of thing that I can apply to my life. Some kind of advice or character or trait that I want to try and emulate in my life. It's always helpful. And I also believe that God places books and living media in our life because he wants to get across these ideas to us. These are his ideas. They all originate from him. Like you said, if we are reading a living book, we can receive ideas that will help us be better and draw us closer to God.
Yeah, exactly. I think I want to end with a promise that as you persist in consuming living media and seeking living ideas and acting on them, you will begin to be able to answer more confidently this question that Moroni poses, which is, can ye behold the Lamb of God? As I illustrate throughout the book, I believe God, Jesus Christ, to be the trunk of the tree. And so as you find these works of art that witness to truth, you'll be able to, I don't know, I almost picture it like chiseling away bits of the marble to reveal the statue of Christ hidden within. And so you will gain a clearer vision of God and of his mercy and his justice and his character peppered throughout the world, throughout nature. And basically, as I write in this conclusion of the book, as you persevere, weathering the letdowns as this quest's initial thrill fades into steady, quiet labor, and resist through the years the many alluring shortcuts, distractions, and side pursuits, you also will gain a clearer vision of God, and you will have had signs enough to believe. And finally, I want to just thank you for joining us in reading and discussing this book. We both truly hope that it has blessed your life and will continue to do so. We'd love to hear from you if you have any comments or questions about the book or the podcast.
It's just been a pleasure. I'm sad it's over.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
We'll continue with the podcast, just introducing other living ideas and living books and works. So we'll hope you'll stick around and join us for future episodes. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments section. We may address them in a future episode. Also, please consider rating, reviewing, and subscribing to the podcast. It really helps others find us. Finally, I wish you peace and success, and I look forward to chatting again.